Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this dedicated this or that video where I'm going to be putting Chris Ann's Light Seers Tarot head to head against the Unfolding Path Tarot. I will have links to both of these decks down below. Please be aware that the Light Seers Tarot is a mass market deck. The Unfolding Path Tarot is an indie deck. I actually backed this on Kickstarter and it came in pretty recently, but these two feel like they might fill a similar niche in my collection, so I really want to look at them, but I also felt like they both deserved a really good, deep, thorough look, more than I could do as part of a larger this or that video. By the way, if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're new to my this or that series, typically what I'm doing here is trying to determine if I have two decks filling the same spot in my collection and whether or not I want them both, want neither, want to keep one over the other. But whenever I get something new in that I feel like is possibly going to do a very similar job to a deck I already own, I really just like to look at it and see if really it's just going to be just one, or if I'm going to keep both. You know, I just said it, but you know, that's what we're doing here. I do like to focus on mindfully curating my collection of tarot and oracle decks. I enjoy having things that I want to rotate through and use and reach for, and so I really try not to have too much redundancy, although I have plenty, trust me, but I try not to have too much redundancy in my collection. So that is what this is all about. We're going to be taking a look at it. Now, I am a long time lover of the Light Seers Tarot. I had the indie edition when it first came out, but I ended up preferring, weirdly, the mass market edition. So that is the edition that I have been using ever since it came out. And I really love this deck. So just a little bit of some praise for the Light Seers Tarot. I think that Chris Ann created a very innovative deck in the Light Seers. Not only is the artwork just really evocative, but it feels modern. It's pretty relatable. It's diverse, but also it really takes a unique look at, I mean, like, for example, in the Strength card here, we have, you know, instead of a lion and a woman, we have the lion is the woman. And there's a lot of this creativity all the way through this deck. And it really, I think, set itself apart in the market when it came out. So I have nothing but praise and love for the Light Seers Tarot. When I saw the Kickstarter campaign for the Unfolding Path Tarot, I got pretty darn excited. The aesthetic is a little bit different, as you can see. It's not full color like that, but there's a lot more, I don't know, diversity, maybe not diversity. What am I trying to say? It feels like it might go even further in showing a wide range of people and situations, but I don't know if they're similar or if they're too similar, or if they're not similar. That part I don't know because I have not put them head to head yet. So we're going to do that together. I'm going to keep us, I think, pretty zoomed in, but I really want my candle in there. There we go. That's so much better. So I'm going to take us through the whole deck. And actually, just to make this a little less unwieldy, I think I'm going to pull out just the major arcana, and we'll do that. Let me just sort myself here. Okay, these are some smaller, more manageable piles, I feel like. So this should go pretty well. We'll just bring all my goodies back in the frame. There. Lovely. Okay, so let's start off with the Fool. Both of these actually show feminine characters, and in both cases, we get this sense of innocence, of naivete. I feel like we get a much stronger element of risk-taking in the Fool card of the Light Seers Tarot, whereas in the Unfolding Path Tarot, I love that she's surrounded by flowers and butterflies. You definitely get this, like, again, this innocence, and she's holding this balloon, and she's not looking, so there's a very good chance she's about to let go of the balloon. But that's, I feel like between the two of them, actually, I'm surprised. I think I may actually like the Light Seers version of this card a little bit better, only because I love the trust fall. I love the fact that she's falling backward and just trusting the universe to catch her. I just think that's such a potent image, and it really gets the point across to me. This feels like a positive spin on the card too, whereas I feel like the Fool card here, you could see it as like, oh, she's about to be disappointed because she's going to perhaps let go of this balloon, she's going to lose it, but that seems like such a low stakes thing, right? Losing your balloon is not like a big deal, you know? I mean, it might be to her, but you get what I mean? It feels a little bit lower stakes. These both actually give me very similar vibes. I think they're easily evenly matched here. Both of them feel very cosmic. Both of them, I feel like, hit the idea that we are weaving or manifesting from the universe, that we have all of this potential, but it's as yet unmanifest potential, which is really what I feel here. It's the act of creating or manifesting or tapping in. Both have this Ouroboros going on. And here, though, we get the addition of the 4 elemental alchemical symbols in the background, which I really appreciate. I feel like I need something to point. Let me get my unicorn wand. Because I mean, if you're going to point, have a unicorn wand. But do you see the 4 symbols here? I don't actually see the 4. Ah, yes, I do. Here they are. The 4 elemental symbols are here in these 4 strands of energy connecting. So we have all of them present. But it's subtle. In fact, this is the first time I've noticed because I think this is probably the first time I've actually looked for it. Here we have our High Priestess, and this one wins hands down for me because I think I'm not used to seeing a crone as a High Priestess, and oops, I am about it. In fact, one of the things that really caught my attention about the Unfolding Path Tarot when I saw the art being shared on Instagram and when I saw the campaign for the deck is there was a ton of age diversity in this one. And for that reason, I will say the Light Seers Tarot does tend to trend more young. We don't see a lot of older people, and Unfolding Path does that so well. But in this moment, I mean, and I love the fact that this person's like channeling, and you see the third eye lit up. That's really important to me personally. I love seeing an element of third eye activation. Here though, we get this crescent moon behind her. I mean, these are both, I feel like these are both really good. I mean, these are very similar cards, are they not? I mean, we get the same sort of profile even, but there's a sense of power and wildness to her. She's a little bit more sensual. I also love that her hair is turning into these little strands of wheat. I'm probably going to call this video, I just realized as I'm going through it, like a this or that deep dive or something, because these are both incredible decks. I love that she's actually a Gaia-like figure here, birthing the world. I love that imagery. I think it's really potent. But there's something here about her strength in her. She's nurturing, but she's very strong. And I'm really attracted to that imagery more so than I am this card. I should be keeping track, shouldn't I? Let's keep track. So far we have, how am I going to do this? Okay, so we have, how am I going to do this? We have a winner, we have a neutral, and wait, we have a loser, a neutral, and a winner. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to do 3 piles. If it wins, it'll be on the left, and I'll do the same thing for the Light Seers. And I'll keep track at the end of which cards. So I feel like this one won, this one was evenly matched, and this one lost against the... There, I've got 2 piles so that I can show you at the end what our tally is. Okay, sorry. So Empress card, Unfolding Path wins on this one for sure for me. All right, so now we have the Emperor. I really enjoy both of these Emperors. I mean, I guess in a pinch, I actually prefer this one because I love the addition of him holding the king chess piece. There's this idea. I mean, I almost actually would see that sort of imagery or attach that sort of imagery to the King of Swords, because I often see the King of Swords as a strategic person, somebody who really is like planning ahead. But then again, I can see that about the Emperor too. I like that this Emperor has a little bit of gray in his beard. He looks like he's earned his authority in a way. He's a little older. Again, the age is probably going to be a really strong defining factor for me. I think I actually do prefer the Unfolding Path Emperor. I thought I was going to go the other way at first, but I do think I do. Oh, and I will point out too, they both have the ram symbol. So we have the ram up here for Aries, and here we have the ram on either side, because this is much like we would see at either side of the throne of the Emperor in the Rider-Waite-Smith card. So I do think I prefer the Unfolding Path Tarot. Okay. Ooh, okay, I love these, but there's no contest to this Hierophant for me. He's very approachable. He's a really welcoming Hierophant, but I guess in that way, it does, again, lean towards the positive. Like, you miss some of the challenging aspects of the Hierophant in that way, but I love this stairway to the cosmos. I don't know, I really like that. He's still got the staff here, the Hierophant staff on his shirt symbol. Here, though, we have the crossed keys, which is really Rider-Waite-Smith important, and what I love about him is that he's got all these different, he's got a pentacle, he's got the Aeon symbol, he's got the cross and the 6-pointed star. There's a moon and star here, which I believe is actually, I want to say, a Muslim symbol. Please don't come for me. I'm not 100% sure, but I think probably. So I feel like we really get this feeling of like multi-faith traditions. I really like that, actually. I think it's winning me over again. Is this... Really? I really thought this one was going to win, but I really feel like this one's doing it. Oh no. Okay, this is not going the way that I fully expected. Okay, Lover's card, for me personally, there's no contest. If you look at these 2 cards, they are both equally passionate, which if I'm going to see a Lover's card in that romantic love light, which I tend to view it more as a choice card. But in this context, looking at them both and seeing that, I am highly drawn to this card, of course, because this figure here, I feel like could be various genders, and that really excites me. This could be a long-haired masculine figure, which I suspect is actually what it's intended to be. But I also see the musculature of the forearm here, and I see this could be a masculine representation of femininity, which I appreciate personally, but that's a very me thing. In any case, if I had to choose between these two lovers cards, they've both got the sort of intensity that each of them is trying to portray, but I like it just a little more here. So again, with winning in the unfolding path. Okay, this is not going as I expected. The Chariot card, no contest for me. I love this. I really, truly love this. I've never really, really liked this card all that much. So for me, this is super, super easy. I'm going to go with this one. Now, keep in mind, the Chariot card is my birth card, or it's not my birth card, rather, but it's the card associated with my sun sign. So this is feels more, I don't know. I don't know. I just like it better, okay? I just do. Okay, this one, I really feel like this one I prefer. It's so unique. I love the fact that she's half lion herself. This really speaks to the way that I personally view the Strength card. I see it as a card where we're really looking at aspects of ourselves, but I kind of see that in this card as well. I think it's really interesting that the lemniscate is sitting over the lion's head. I feel like it's normally over the human's head in the card, so I really appreciate that. I like how delicate everything looks, but also how she's sort of looking up into the lion. It gives the impression that the lion is or could potentially overpower her, but isn't. I really like them both. I think I'm going to call this, I feel like I want to give it to Light Seers, but I like them both. I think I'm going to call it a tie. All right. I think that's the accurate way to judge it. Okay, I got to say, I really, really love this Hermit card the most. So two things I notice here that are worth pointing out. In the Light Seers Tarot, and I do have another separate deep dive of Light Seers Tarot, so there's probably going to be different insights this time, but I do have another full-length video on this deck. But I know that she's sitting up here on the mountaintop, and she's left her lantern down here, but she's glowing. And what I love about that is it gives the impression that she's lit her own way, but then she's gathered enough wisdom about herself that she herself can shine a light for others. So there's this idea of sort of what happens when you do that internal work and how you can eventually radiate it outwards, which I adore. I think for me, the one thing that throws me whenever I pull this card is I think it's something about how blue this light is that's around her, but at first glance it looks like she's floating, and that always throws me a little bit. I really like that over here we have, again, a crone-like figure. Now a lot of this has to do with the fact that I've been really craving seeing aged people in my decks lately, and that's just the place in life that I'm at right now where I'm really thirsting for that. And so this does it in that way, but in some ways this feels more like a Rider-Waite-Smith clone and less like it's telling me something different. So this one wins in the uniqueness department, I think, but this one wins just general personal preference at the moment. So for that reason, I think I'm going to tie them. But if I had to pick, I would go with the Unfolding Path. So I'll put them in tied for now. The wheel. I do enjoy this wheel. Let me think about this for a second. I like that she's got the dice around her neck. I really like that she's standing on the top of the wheel, that she's balanced in this tree pose, that we see the shadow and the light coming to a kind of to meet in the middle where she stands. This idea that she's going to go down or she's going to be coming up. Like you can look at it either direction, which I think is really cool. I like that it looks like a coin that's been flipped in the air. I mean, there's so many layers to this. We go over here and let me just soak in what I'm seeing. So she's got two discs that are sort of hovering above her. One is this same classical symbol, the T-A-R-O. We have that kind of happening in this oblong circle here. This one almost looks like a compass of sorts, but I'm looking and it has some symbols. I'm going to have to give it to this one just because I'm not entirely sure what's happening here. If you have opinions, I don't entirely know what these symbols are, which might change my opinion. I will say one thing. Actually, ooh, I'm going to probably change my mind here real quick. I just realized one of the ways that I always describe the Wheel of Fortune or one of the analogies, I guess, that really has stuck with me over the years is the idea of those wheels that are horizontal to the ground that kids play on at playgrounds. They may not exist anymore. They were kind of dangerous. But one person or an adult would push this thing. It had like bars you could hold on to on the sides. And one person or adult would push, or one kid would push the wheel. And then kids would sit on the wheel. And as it would get pushed, you'd get spun around, right? But what was cool about that is that you could choose, and I actually talk about this in my book, The Self-Worth Path. I talk about this concept of change and the wheel and what it all means. But essentially, if you were a real like daredevil kid, you'd sit near the edge of the wheel, or you'd even stand up. But if you wanted to be on the ride but didn't want to be, too scared or it to be too intense, you'd sit at the center. Because with wind resistance, sitting at the edge of the wheel means that you're going to have a more exciting ride, right? It's going to feel like more wind resistance. It feels more dangerous. And that's because of that resistance. But if you're in the center, you're moving with the wheel, and it feels like the wheel's even moving slower. It feels much gentler. And that is exactly how I feel like our relationship to change determines our experience with change. And since the Wheel of Fortune to me is all about change, what stood out to me, and the reason I'm getting to the point, I promise, what stands out to me is the fact that she's sitting in the center of this wheel-shaped rug, and she's also in the center of this wheel mandala behind her. And she's sort of holding on to the wheel, which to me is giving me this feeling of like embracing the change and moving with it and being at peace with it instead of resisting it. So this feels like it has more of that vibe to it, whereas the Light Sears Tarot feels like it has more of that luck, fortune, chance, coming out on top kind of vibe. And I do tend to go more to the change aspect of the Wheel of Fortune than I do the luck aspect in my personal readings. So for me personally, this one actually now wins. Oh my gosh, so interesting. Okay, Justice. This is going to be, I think, a little simpler for me. I have always enjoyed this card, but nothing about it has really bowled me over, at least recently. It may have when I first got it. I do like the kind of reversed image here, but I don't reverse my cards, and I don't know fully how I feel about that. I really do like a very classic, neutral, clean feeling Justice card, because that's what the card feels like to me. I also tend to really appreciate when the sword is straight up and down and not like crooked. In this case, it's sideways and it's attached to the scales. I actually like the idea that the scales and the sword are separate. This one wins. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Oh my goodness. Okay, I wasn't expecting to see this, but this is brilliant. Like, these do both have very similar vibes. How does one even pick? I mean, I do like that we can see that she's attached to a tree here, and I do like the addition of botanicals. I do suspect, and I don't know enough about botanicals to really guess, but I do suspect there's a chance that the botanicals could add a layer of meaning if we were to look into that. I don't know that that's true. I'm really appreciating that she's hanging from like a tire swing here. She also has this ribbon wrapped around her, but interestingly, the ribbon is purple, which is immediately giving me vibes kind of like from the White Sage Tarot. It's connecting me to chakra information right away, and it's bringing in that layer of intuition and insight and like being connected to your higher wisdom. Oh, it's really speaking to me. So I think I'm going to go with this one. But I will say, I love how this character here is, we've had this pool underneath her and the runes are showing up, which is very reminiscent to the idea of Odin receiving that knowledge about the runes, and he had to make a sacrifice to do it. So I can make a case for both, but I really, really prefer this one. All right. Oh gosh. Now we have Death and Rebirth. And gosh, I really like both of these. These are probably going to be tied. What I like about this is that we have the skull on top, and then of course we have the human up here. And you do get that idea of death and rebirth. I also like actually here that they didn't go with an older person, because of course death is one of those things, the kind of transformation that death what's the word? That it tells us about, that it warns us about. The kind of inevitable changes are not something that happen only to the elderly. So sometimes in decks that otherwise have very little age diversity, you'll see somebody older in the death card, implying like death of old age kind of thing, which I don't like. Here I like that it's neutral, and I've always enjoyed this, but this feels slightly more abstract, slightly, compared to this one. I am going to tie them, I think, because I do think that neither one of them is bowling me over. I like them both, but for different reasons. So they'll go into the tied piles. Okay, Temperance. Gosh, I really love her much more than I love him. And there's not a lot of reasoning behind that. I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of good Rider-Waite-Smith symbology in both. He's got the square symbol on his chest. He's got invisible wings behind him, implying his angelic status. We also have him juggling sort of the sun and the moon, which I love from an alchemical perspective. But I also really love the cups, just the simple cups. And the idea that she's doing this in this focused and determined kind of way, just finding that balance point. I think I'm going to actually tie them because I don't think I prefer this. So I prefer her as a character over him. He just looks a little young for me, but she doesn't look old. She just looks more, I don't know, adult somehow. Yeah, I think these are going to tie. Man, okay, I do have to say, I love me a tempting devil. I think he does tempting better than this one. I do like that idea of temptation, but ultimately the concept I want to get across is, or want to feel in the reading, is that idea of bondage. I do think that this is, these are both good. I like that he's offering up the chain, or he's holding it after you've already freed yourself. It's an interesting perspective on the card. Oh gosh, am I going to tie them or am I going to pick Unfolding Path? Like, I'm not into boys, but like, he's pretty cute as boys go. But he feels more like, I don't know, I feel like you're more in the scene with this one. I'm going to go this one. I'm going to go this one. I don't think I'm going to tie them after all. I was tempted to for a minute though. The Tower. Okay, in truth, this image is great. I totally get what's being communicated here. It's lightning hitting a forest home. I get the premise, but there's butterflies everywhere, which speaks to the like regeneration. I actually really like a good destructive tower, but what I really like here is we see the tower's top being blown off by lightning. I love the red in the background, which speaks to the Mars Association. And I love that she is in a red dress and that she looks peaceful here. You could take other inference from that. I also like that she has the Hagalaz rune on her forearm, which I think is just really a cool Easter egg, and now makes me want to go back through the whole rest of the deck and see if there's been other runes that I've missed. But Hagalaz to me is a very tower-like rune, so I love that addition. But her being in the red dress to me is almost like she's, in a way, at peace with this destruction. Like she knows that it's necessary and is sort of going with it. Much like how I liked that peaceful approach to the wheel card as well. So this one wins for me. Ooh, gosh, these are both so good. I'm going to give it to this one, I think. They're both beautiful. I love her. She feels much more cosmic. But what I like about this is that she's sort of tied her string back to the star. She's sort of re-navigating and finding her place and her hope. Because for me, the star often has that navigational element along with the hope and peace sort of element. She looks like she's, you know, really hopeful in this card. I do, yeah, this one wins. Oh my gosh, is that only the second one that's firmly won? Uh-oh. Let me just look back. Did I give it a different one that I didn't put in the right pile? No, I don't think I did. Oh my goodness. Okay, well. Okay, for the moon. I've never loved that she was underwater. I can get it and I can work with it. I like that we have the dog and the wolf overhead here, or like to each side here, and the moon in the center. I love that aspect of it, but I like this more. I like that we have the lobster kind of on her arm here and the triple moon at her third eye space, which I appreciate. It's that connection to intuition. I really want to dig into the botanicals on this. If anybody has done any associations or like studies on the botanical connections in the Unfolding Path, I would love to hear. In fact, there is a little guidebooky. Oh no, there wasn't a guidebook. There was like a pamphlet kind of thing. I can't remember now. It's not next to me, but I'm curious. I'm curious if that's addressed, because yeah, I'd be curious, especially in this. But I like that we have this kind of moonlit, but kind of hard to see path that sort of comes and goes behind her a bit. So there's this feeling of like maybe not fully knowing your way, which I really love. I do love this one better. Okay, well, these are both great, but there's some really specific to me things here that I want to point out. In a sun card, I actually do really like the naked baby on a horse situation. Oh my gosh, she has Sowilo on her skirt. Okay, are hidden runes just a thing now? Like, what's going on? Sowilo is the sun rune, so that's just beautiful. I love that. That's really interesting. I've never spotted that before, and I've been using this deck for years. Anyway, over here, I really, really like this take. First of all, nobody's naked, which is great, but I don't mind the naked horse, because a lot of times in the sun card, I'm looking for something that speaks to authenticity, being able to sort of shed your skin and be yourself, and how you can be yourself in the full light of the day, and how beautiful and powerful that can be, but you can also be safe doing that. So it's got a lot of layers for me personally, the sun card. And there's something about this particular character. He almost feels like somebody who maybe is just outside of what's maybe people expect of him. There's a little more, I feel like, letting himself loose in this card. A little more risk of being made fun of. I don't know how else to say that right. There's something about his demeanor. It's like he truly is letting himself be authentic. There's the flowers in his hair. There's just some aspects here that are like, okay, you're not just, you know, conforming, if that makes any sense. It's something that I personally look for in the Sun card. It's a personal association, but I do see it a little more in him than I see in her. So this card wins. All right, next up we have Judgment. I love this Judgment card. There's no question. This one feels a lot more abstract to me. This is significantly better, in my opinion. Not better, better to how I read the card. Because I see Judgment as an evolution, as a level up, and I see that here. I see the, it's very evocative. This one feels, yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't, I don't see that in that card. But she reminds me... Interesting. So I just realized she reminds me a little bit of the, oh, what was her title? I guess she was the Empress, or what was her title? In the Neverending Story, the one who needed a name. Somebody's going to be shouting at their screen right now. But she reminds me of her, which actually gives this card new context, but I'm still going to give this one the win. Oh, put it in the win pile. Ooh, okay, I do love this world. Both of them have the circle around them. That's actually an important element for me in a world card, to see some sort of like idea of a boundary. It's not something I need every single time. It depends on how the card is illustrated, but if we're going to see a single figure on the card with not a lot of background scenery or another scene to depict what this card means, I definitely want to see some sort of boundary, because I speak to boundary. This card is associated with Saturn, which has the rings, and there's an association for boundaries for me with the world card, but that's only one meaning. I like how sort of confident and possessed she is with herself, how she sort of is looking the camera right dead in the eye, the camera. She's looking us right in the eye, right? The viewer. And I really enjoy that. Yeah, this one wins. Okay. That's the Major Arcana. Now let's take a look at the wand suit. Okay. Of these two, I really love this flame in the mind. It speaks to the idea of being inspired, which inspiration is my key word for the Ace of Wands. So in this one, I think I have to give it to the Light Seers, but this is a very classic Rider-Waite-Smith inspired image. So nothing new here for me really that's standing out. I could be missing something, but like they're both going to get the idea across. I just really like how this is illustrated. Next, we have the Two of Wands. Now, I'm very clear about the Two and the Three of Wands, and that's a sticking point for a lot of people. But for me, the Two of Wands is a preparatory card. It's a planning card where we're looking at all the possibilities, considering what our next move might be. And here we have somebody who's looking out over from a high position, which I do appreciate. And then there's a VW bus down here, which is super cute, a globe. We have the Two Wands. Here we've got somebody also sort of looking, but they're looking at the viewer. They're not looking out at the distance. So I prefer Light Seers here. This one actually still feels a little preparatory towards me, but my keyword, my personal keyword for the Three of Wands is embark. We're actually taking steps forward. Now we're still seeing her. If we assume that this would be the same character, which of course it's not, but if we assumed it's the same, it's the progression of the suit, then we assume that maybe she was planning a trip. Now she's actually at the beach doing the trip. She's going on the trip. She's going to be surfing. Here though, I think this is the first Three of Wands I've seen in a long time that really shows that idea of embarking. The sun is setting, she's on the ship, she's heading out, she's on her way. And that on the way energy is what I really love to see in a Three of Wands card, so this one definitely wins. The Four of Wands, I actually really love both of these, but I definitely extra love this one. It's close up. We don't really get the scene that's happening. It's very focused in on the people, but it feels more personally relatable. It's like this couple, that's how I'm viewing it, this couple who has reached a point where things are good, they're happy, they're stable. There's a milestone moment here. Whereas here it feels a little bit like a... What's the word I'm looking for? There's like a Coachella. It feels a little Coachella. That's what I was trying to think of. So this one loses. This one wins. Five of Wands. Again, we have classic Rider-Waite-Smith. I love that every hand is very different here, but they're all coming up. I love that they're creating this pentacle shape. That's not uncommon in a Five of Wands, but I do enjoy it. Here we have all different people doing this competition type deal. They're all, it looks like, trying to reach the fire and almost kind of like climbing up here to get there. I don't know. These are tied. the Six of Wands. I think these are both fantastic. I think I'm also going to tie these. I think the idea of success and of having accomplished something is very clear in both of these. They're both showing people at a position where they're actually recognizing themselves or being recognized for their success or their win in some way. I love that. I think the only thing that gives the Light Seers a tiny edge here is that there's spotlights on her, and I often will read the Six of Wands about letting yourself step into the light, like be recognized, but not always. And the Six of Wands obviously has this element of extra like diversity with ability here, so that also stands out to me as a positive. I think I'm gonna have to tie these. They're both really good. The Seven of Wands. Now, I will admit that this is a very beautiful card. I love the pacifism, the fact that she is like, I'm good. I don't need to deal with any of you all, right? Like in the Seven of Wands, we're often sort of standing up for ourselves in some way or defending ourselves against an onslaught. So this feels really interesting and different. But this, I love the power in it, the ferocity. I love that she's fighting back, that she's not just like taking it. Not to say that she is. They both feel strong in a different way, but I really prefer this one. It's just cool. I have to say, the Eight of Wands is often a really boring card, but I love this one. I love that he's riding the wands and that we get this almost like they're shooting. You get these like trails off the back of them like they're little rocket ships. I think that's really cool. I love the perspective on this, but I like the addition of the person on this card. So this one wins. Here's another one where I really think both are good. I think I'm going to tie them. The funny thing is that in general, aesthetically, I think I prefer having a scene to just these washes of color behind the figures. And in that way, I feel like the Light Seers kind of has a pictorial sort of feel or more of an edge in that way. But I really feel like these are both communicating the same thing in a similar way, and I like them both. Tied. Yes. These are both good. I like actually the addition here of her getting some help carrying the burden. She's not doing it all herself. She's carrying stuff, but she's got some help. Here, this person's managing on her own. You can read them both the same way, but I think they're both, I feel like this one gets the edge, although I really like them both, but I think this one gets a slight edge. So I'll give it to Light Seers on that one. Okay, this is so cute, the Page of Wands. I really love the facial expression here, and I will say that Unfolding Path Tarot has a lot of facial expression, a lot of dynamism in the humans. Not to say that it's not also dynamic in the Light Seers, but I feel like there's more of it in the Unfolding Path Tarot. I kind of love the magic and the sass happening here. This one wins for me. Love the drumming in the Knight of Wands. I've always been a big favorite, but it does give that festival feel, whereas this feels a little more... I think I might have to tie them. I mean, I don't love the festival feel, but I do love the drum circle vibe. And the Knight of Wands, I mean, this looks like a Knight of Wands to me. They're both very expressive. You know what? Actually, I think I might give it to the Knight of Wands. I do really like this, though. And she's got the, like, salamander on her shoe. There's a eagle. That's got to be an eagle, right? I can't tell. What is that up in the... You guys will be able to tell on the screen. Anyway, I do like both, but I think I'm going to give it to the Light Seers. I do like it, though. Okay, Queen of Wands. These are both fantastic. She actually does look like she's more, a little bit older. I love her so much. I think she's beautiful. I love the cat in her lap. I like these both. These are a tie. And then the King. These are both great. I think they both feel dynamic. They both feel powerful. I love the lion behind him. I love the sort of leaning in, really engaging you of him. They're both very intense, dynamic characters. Tied. Okay, this next suit is going to be hard because the next suit is the Cup suit, which is my favorite suit. I'm very much attached to this particular suit, and I have a ton of opinions about it. And my candle keeps going out, so I'm going to have to relight that. Okay, so this ace, these are both great. I love the fingers making the heart in the hands here, and I love the cup here. In both cases, I think these are good. These are both tied for me. The two, I love these both. I don't have any complaints. I do like the sort of more passionate embrace here. I feel like there's a little butt grab happening, which I think is very appropriate for the Two of Cups in a way. It's that sort of new, young, kind of passionate love. I think I'm going to give it to the Unfolding Path there. Okay, the Three of Cups is an easy tie, I think. They're both everything I want to see in a Three of Cups card. I don't have any complaints about either. They're different perspectives, but I love them both. God, I thought I was going to be pickier than this. These are both very, very similar images. They got to be tied. Okay, the Five of Cups. I think the emotion is a lot stronger on her face. I think they're both really good. Here it's like they're all sort of upturned or empty, or this one's being emptied. There's a lot I can read into this image, but I feel like this one hits the grief button harder. I'm going to give it to Unfolding Path. There's no competition with the emotions I feel when I look at the Six of Cups in the Light Seers Tarot. So it definitely wins, but these are both beautiful cards. The Seven of Cups. I like how the bowls are upturned, but I love her facial expression. It's so exactly how I feel whenever I'm in a Seven of Cups moment. I'm giving it to Unfolding Path. I love both of these. I think they're easily tied. I think we get a little bit of empowerment and sass in both of these cards in a way that I really like. So I'm keeping these in the tied bin. Yes to both of these. I mean, these both have a similar vibe, yeah? Open-hearted, 9 cups. It's not like a dude with a bunch of wine. I love the age on her face. Yes, yes. These are tied. Gosh, they're both doing such a good job on the cup suit. Dang it. Okay, so interestingly enough, these both show sort of a blended family, which to me reads as 2 females, which of course hits my personal aesthetic. But more specifically, I feel like you could look at it a number of ways. Like, you know, they could be best friends raising their kids together. They could be a couple. You could view them in any sort of way. And I like that about this card. This one has a more definitive rainbow, which I appreciate from a symbolic standpoint. I couldn't get that word out. I really like them both. I'm going to tie them. Gosh, they're tying through, I feel like, all the cups. This has never, ever been my favorite cups card. I don't like it. I don't like that his feet are up there. It feels weird. It feels like a printing error. There's just a thing that I don't like it. The pig flying, I mean, I get where it's going. I just not fond. So I knew it was probably going to lose. But this wins, even if this had been a normal page of, not to say it's abnormal, but even if this had been like something that I liked better, I think this would win because we don't often see pages as people older. And I love this Page of Cups with my whole heart. So this definitely wins and this loses. These are both fantastic knights. I think they're easily tied. They both look romantic and tender. They both look like charmers. They both look like the knights, for sure. I love her. I mean, yeah, she's my favorite. So she wins. And this one's going to win. He's a fantastic King of Cups, but he reminds me of somebody from a cooking show. I can't get it out of my brain. It just sits there. He doesn't remind me of anybody, but they're both sitting at the surface of the water, which is something I tend to really look for and enjoy. I'm keeping them both. I mean, I think this one wins and this one loses. Okay, next up is Swords. So much like the Ace of Wands, I do think I prefer how this is depicted because this is very classic Rider-Waite-Smith. It's effective. But I love this idea that we're drawn into what does an Ace of Swords moment feel like? And this is kind of what it feels like to me. It's like new knowledge or new insight. We're encountering something we haven't encountered before, and we have to like think about that or process that. Whereas this, again, classic Rider-Waite-Smith, no complaints, but this wins. Love the decision, feeling, and vibe of this. I think it's really unique and creative. I love that we see 2 paths behind her. I like that idea of being tugged this way and that by the crows. I just think this is very dynamic and interesting. This is beautiful and works well, but I think this card wins. Here too, I actually really like this. As much as this one is so intense, it's so dark and so emotive. But for me, the Three of Swords, this brings the focus back where it should be. She's got the heart on her shirt here, but she's not wearing the heart. She's not, the focus is on the fact that she's clutching her head. So she's learned some kind of lesson the hard way. It looks like she's definitely been hurt, wounded, damaged, but she's clutching her head. So she's in the space where she's processing her thoughts about those feelings. Does that make sense? And that's how I read the Three of Swords being the suit of the mind. So this one wins, but they're both very powerful. I love both of these. I've always really loved this nest in the Four of Swords of the Light Seers. I've always really appreciated that. But I like this sort of serene blues here. I think these are a tie. I like them both. The Five of Swords. This is so interesting to me. So I feel like I like this one better. I'm trying to identify exactly why that is. And I think it's partly because she's one. There's two figures in the back, but she looks really badly wounded and hurt in the process. Like, yeah, she's maybe one, but like, it's not been great. So I like that. So that wins. I love both of these, but I really appreciate the perspective here. I like that we see that she's pushing her own boat. I love that. They're both empowered that way. She's pushing her own boat, and she's got a little dog in the boat. So it's almost like she's looking after her dog too, which I love. And then there's this like sunrise or smoother water happening over here. I like that we're seeing her move towards that, whereas this we're seeing a different perspective. I love this card. I don't love that it's coming towards me. I would prefer it to go elsewhere. The Seven of Swords, we got our sneaky sneak. I like them both. I don't think I strongly prefer one over another, so I'll put them in the tied section. Love this Eight of Swords. It has to win. It's just brilliant. I adore it. But this is very, very good. Like, she's blocked by 8 swords, but like if everything else is completely open, she just has to get up and walk away, right? I like seeing that we can easily free ourselves, but I love how this speaks to the ways we think that we're trapped and we're not, right? I love that. So this definitely wins. Here we have the Nine of Swords. Both are fearful and anxious. I think that's a tie for me. I really think I prefer this Ten of Swords. This has got so much more hope in it and lift and optimism, but I really, really like this one. Especially because you can see her getting up, you know? So there's a few ways you can read that. Love both of these Page of Swords. Look at this. They're both doing such a beautiful job of capturing that excitable learning energy of the Page of Swords. Tie. These are great. These are both really great. I think I'm going to tie these. On one hand, I like that we can see him running for the motorcycle. So we see him running to take action. But this guy's moving quickly too, but he has a very sly expression, which I feel like is more dynamic as a court card because we can then read about his personality, I think, a little easier. So I think I'm going to tie them. I was going to give this the win, but I do think I'm going to tie them because this is still very, very good. So they're tied. Here's our Queen of Swords. I love both of them so much. So much. I love that she's got a cup. To me is reminiscent of a heart because the cup suit is all about emotions. It's all locked up in a cage here. I've never been entirely sure what she's standing or sitting on. She's got a katana, it looks like. And there's these flags and she looks really high up, but it's almost, I've never been quite sure what this object is that she's standing on. Is it concrete? Is it like, what is it? I've always been curious. If you have opinions, weigh in down below. They both look like classic Queen of Swords, but I feel like I like her a little better. I think it's the regal note. I don't know. I love the butterflies all over her throne. I really like her. She's going to take the win. And then we have our King of Swords. I love both of these. They both have falcon or some sort of bird of prey. That may be a crow. I'm really bad at animal identification. Sitting on their thrones, which I love. They both look very astute, very piercing gaze. I love that. I love that we have an owl here too. I think I'm going to tie them, although I think if pressed, I might pick him. I love that they both have some age though on their faces. And that brings us to the Pentacles suit. I keep wanting to scoot them up too high. So same thing here. This ace feels very Rider-Waite-Smith with some addition of some botanicals, whereas here we have an actual coin that seems to have some roots and some sprouts. So you really get the idea of growing or nurturing whatever opportunity is coming your way. So Light Sears takes the win. It's definitely one on all the aces. So that's pretty cool. Then we have the Two of Pentacles. He feels a little overconfident for what I feel like the Two of Pentacles feels like. And she feels a little bit careless. I don't think either one of these are my favorite, so I'm going to go ahead and tie them. I always like to see just a little bit of sort of stress or struggle in the Two of Pentacles because it's usually not easy to have all those balls in the air. I love that these three are sort of weaving together, but I really love this beekeeper feel. Everybody working to harvest, like the bee is doing its part, the harvester is doing their part, the beekeeper is doing their part. I like this a lot. Then we have the Four of Pentacles. I love him with a love that is true. He is amazing. To to me, this is like a clutching to comfort and security. It looks like he's clutching a pillow, but it's full of coins. And that feeling of clutching a pillow to me is the feeling that clutching onto security and wanting to feel safe. That's very much a vibe of the Four of Pentacles. I don't think she feels like she's clutching. She feels like she's just being careful. But I like that clutching energy because yes, we're stable in the Four, but we might be holding on too hard to that stability. So I really like him. These are both great. But I've always really loved that we see the keyhole and the key leaning up against the door on this. So I want to tie them, but I think technically she hits it just a little better for me. So she takes the win. This has always felt a little abstract. I like that this is much more clear with the little gifties. So I'm giving it to the unfolding path. The 7, both of these are doing a very similar thing. This one's nurturing a plant in their hand. This one's nurturing it in the ground. We're doing the same kind of thing. We're sort of having to wait to see how things are going to turn out. I'm going to tie them. They're both very, very good. Here we have the 8. She's got a mastery of, it looks like witchcraft almost. She looks like she's sitting in front of herbs and bowls and all kinds of magical goodies. And this person's perfecting her ballet. I mean, they're both beautiful. I do love the moon phases happening here. I think that's really cool. The idea of building these skills over time is really emphasized, I think. I really like them both. I'm going to give it to the 8 of Pentacles because I just think that's such an incredible image. I kind of wish she was on a different kind of stool considering the things that are in front of her. It's like a very modern chair with all these witchy things. It just feels slightly disjointed. I don't know. I still like this though. So that's getting the win. Then we have the 9 of Pentacles. I love these both. There's something special about this, I think. Just the fact that, again, it's a different kind of vibe. I like this one. And then we have the 10. The age range is here, and the fact that we see an Asian family, which is so rare in the tarot. Like, why? Why do we not see more of this? I love this here. It just feels different and fresh, and I really like the vibe of it entirely. So that's staying. Not staying. That's my favorite. Okay, Page of Pentacles. Look at him. I love his facial expression so much. That wins. Done. Done. The Knight. I have not been overly fond of this Knight. I see what he's doing, but it's a little muddled compared to here where I see she's nurturing her plants. She's taking care of them. She's going to be very responsible. She holds everything close to her. Yeah, I like this a lot. Also, I like when we play with the genders a bit too, the expected genders. Here we have the Queen of Pentacles. And funny enough, I think she reads much more Queen of Pentacles to me than she does. She feels almost like she could be like a Queen of Cups or a Queen of Wands, depending on your perspective. I think she makes an incredible Queen of Pentacles, so she wins. She's always been one of my favorite cards in the deck, though, and this one loses. But they're both good. They're both good. And again, here, I am so attached to this particular King of Pentacles. I like the age in his beard. I like the white hair. I like that he's in a library, and you get that idea of skill and mastery and comfort in his own skin. You get that here, but he feels more traditional businessman. I like the relaxed look of him. Okay, guys, so where does this leave us? Let's do a little bit of a tally and look at our piles. So generally, for cards that won in the Light Seers, we have that many. Oopsies. And we have a lot of cards in the Unfolding Path Tarot that were my favorites. So these are the yes piles. Put those to the side. But in the tied piles, I feel like they're actually, pretty even. These look very, very similar sized piles. So these are the cards where I feel like they both, I like them both equally. And let's just check. So interestingly, there are more cards that tied than that won in the Light Seers. And there are more cards that tied than won in the Unfolding Path. That's a really interesting piece of information and data for me. And that leaves us with the losers, which is going to be the same kind of comparison as comparing the winners. So I don't need to go over that. But I will say, to me, there's a big enough pile of cards that I liked, that I feel like they both did very, very well. And that I don't think I can really definitively say I want to keep one over the other. I feel like these will both be wonderful client reading decks. I suspect that for a while, I will probably find myself reaching for the Unfolding Path Tarot more. I really, really love I really enjoy both decks. I can't find a lot of fault with either. I will say of the two decks, there are a few cards in the Light Seers Tarot that I actively dislike or that I really strongly don't prefer. Like the Page of Cups is a bummer because that's my significator, or one of them. And having that card be a card I don't like just always bugged me about this deck. And I also am not fond of the Chariot card, which I associate with my astrological sign of Cancer because that is the correspondence. So there are a couple like kind of strangely sort of deal breakery cards here, but there are also a ton of cards in this deck that just are innovative and go their own way. It does have a slightly younger vibe. Yeah, like that's not one that I love. There are some cards here that have a slightly younger vibe, but there is a fairly decent range of age and experience and types of people in this deck. So I think it does a very, very good job. The Unfolding Path Tarot just has a lot more cards that give me the age diversity that I want or more expression on the people's face. But this page is great. He's great. I love him. I love the Seven of Cups. But they did tie actually on a lot of the Cups cards, which is a suit that matters a lot to me. I really do like him a lot. But I do like the other Hierophant as well. So I feel like these are definitely both meant to stay in my collection. I can't see letting either of them go. I think they're both brilliant decks. But I think for a time, I'm probably going to focus in on this one and read with it. In the same instances that I would reach for the Light Seers, I probably will reach for Unfolding Path. But I think there's things that set them apart enough that I'm not sad that I have them both. And the Light Seers Tarot has been a tried and true for me for so long that I'm very comfortable keeping it in my collection. So that is the result of this side-by-side. In a sense, we've done a deep dive of the Unfolding Path because I've spent a lot of time going through the cards and a revisit of my original deep dive of the Light Seers Tarot. But I'm very pleased to have both of these decks. And I don't think it's bad to have a selection of decks that feel relatable, that feel like they have a good examples of the human experience. And I think these both really offer something unique, both to each other, but also in general, amidst a sea of decks that tend to show us the same kind of thing again and again. So they do both stand alone in that way. But there are similarities. And so eventually, if I end up bonding with one over the other, and I could see that possibly happening with Unfolding Path, I may reach a point where I find I just don't reach for Light Seers Tarot anymore. And if that happens, I'll revisit this. But for now, I'm pretty comfy to keep them both. I think I might just let Light Seers rest for a while and use just this, as I said, in the situations I might want to reach for, this kind of a deck. And after a time, if I find that I'm just never really missing this one, then I might put it into Purgatory and go from there. But this is one that I feel pretty cozy holding on to for quite a long time. So that's where I've landed with this. I'd be so curious to hear your guys' opinions down below on these two decks. Do you have a preference of one over the other? Did you pick up the Unfolding Path Tarot? Is this your first time seeing it? Are you going to pick it up now? I think it's brilliant. I think it's a really, really well-known deck. And for sure, if you're attracted to this kind of deck and you don't already have a deck like Light Seers in your collection, maybe check it out. I think the artist did an incredible job. I will have links to everything, of course, in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching. As always, an extra big thank you goes out to the Unicorn fam, my channel members. You guys really help me to do all of this, and I just can't thank you enough for your support of the channel. It really, really means a lot. To everybody watching, you support just by being here, and that is so incredibly important. I cannot stress that enough. So thank you for your likes and your comments and your subscriptions, and for watching the channel, because if you weren't here watching, this wouldn't be any fun at all. Thank you all so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye!